while sometimes critical, crucially, they are not hostile to Israel. In the wake of Assad's overthrow, analysts talked of a David corridor linking Israeli-controlled Golan Heights to Kurdish territory in Syria's north. Here's some good news. With the revenue in the negatives and a promised 15 million shekel care package that never arrived, the port of Eilat is officially shutting its doors and turning its keys starting next week due to the effects of Yemen's naval blockade. Victory for the Houthi rebels over the state of Israel. The Yemeni organization has managed to achieve against the current Israeli government what Egypt failed to achieve at its peak. The port of Eilat will be completely closed starting next week. The official reason for the closure announcement is a seizure imposed by the Eilat municipality on the port's accounts, which have accumulated property tax debts totaling several 100,000 shekels. This is after its revenues, which stood at hundreds of millions to almost zero since the Houthi rebels began attacking global shipping, especially that en route to Israel shortly after October 7, 2023. Excuse me when I say I stand 10 toes down in this regard. Economic pressure is clearly the most pacifist option here. Okay? It's true. It's real. Perhaps that is the reason why so many people get so mad when I talk about the Houthis and the Ansar Allah administration creating an environment where there is economic pressure being placed upon the Israeli society broadly. It has to happen. This is what BDS is. This is what boycott, divestment, and sanctions are. This is the most peaceful solution to Israel's unlimited, and yet many people don't want to take that option. Here is Barry. Victory for the Houthi rebels over the state of Israel. The Yemeni organization has managed to achieve against the current Israeli government what Egypt failed to achieve at its peak. This is from Walla. The port of Eilat will be completely closed starting next week. We already covered that. This is after its revenues, which stood at hundreds, or covered that as well. Worth noting that Rashrash Eilat has been effectively closed for 19 months now because Eilat, sorry, has been effectively closed for 19 months now because of Yemen's operations against Israel. 80% of its revenues were lost in 2024. Okay. Yet you are using Windows and Microsoft product. Microsoft is a priority BDS target. No, it's not. Xbox gaming, like Microsoft gaming division is. Anyway, shut up. Don't come to me with this shit. Not even as a joke. All right. Because there's so much misinformation on this stuff, and I think it's by design. A lot of people do this specifically to be like, dude, what are you going to do about that? I can't stand the Houthis, but they're doing the right thing here. Everyone has the responsibility to do what they can to stop this, and they're using their strategic position to do right here. Critical support on this specifically. Yeah, even Cloud District Enjoyer, who is a bit of a lib when it comes to this kind of stuff, who initially used to yell at me all the time because I kept saying over and over again that what they're doing is the correct thing here, has now come on board. There it is. This is what you do when you actually recognize as a genocide, regardless of your own personal opinions on the matter. I'm not a lib, and I didn't do that. Yes, you did. We can literally see your old statements in the chat, but it's okay because you at least you do recognize that it's a genocide. Everyone that says is a genocide, but what the Houthis are doing is wrong, does not actually recognize them. If they did, they would be like, yeah, of course, critical support to the Houthis for blockading the Red Sea. Of course. What do you mean? What the fuck are people supposed to do? Anyway. In all honesty, you should ditch as much closed source software as you can. Okay, dude. Yeah, I can't even run a normal stream with the existing software that I have, and you want me to learn Linux. Get out of here. Eilat isn't just Israel's gateway to the east. It's also a strategic port to the Israeli Navy. The port crew and equipment help dock and service naval ships, including the ones that are part of the multi-layer missile defense in the south. Anyway. Where was I? Consider the new PC an opportunity to switch to Firefox and get back with the ads and shit? No. Oh, here. This is footage, by the way. Can't wait for some Israeli to send me 7 pages worth of text explaining how this was justified and not due to minor technicalities in the Geneva Convention because undefined border. Even, you got like pro-Ukraine accounts shitting on Israel now.
وزير الدفاع الاحتلال الإسرائيلي إسرائيل كاتس إن الجيش سيواصل مهاجمة قوات.
So yeah, great situation overall. What is this? HD Hussein Doro. Oh, this guy is the guy who was sanctioned by the EU and is like now officially stateless, which is crazy. Thread, what's happening in Syria and how it's part of West's redesign for the entire Middle East. A new Syrian civil war is breaking out. This time it's not fueled by proxy war between U.S. and Russia. The U.S. is now backing all sides. Syria's self-appointed transitional government led by Jelani / al-Shara, backed by the United States, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, under the pretext of protecting the Druze, and Qatar. Under the pretext of protecting the Druze, Israel always moves with American approval. So America is de facto also on this side. Could longtime U.S. allies, the Kurds, enter the fray? Until now, the U.S. has allowed al-Shaddad's sectarian programs against the Alawites and Christians, even rewarding him by lifting sanctions and removing his terrorism designation. Alman Türk, evet. Hüseyin Doğru. He's a German Turk who is now, I think, like... He's in like this unique, impossible situation where like he's completely sanctioned by the EU. Now that Russia is out of Syria, minorities are desperately looking for a new powerful ally to help them. Today, it's the Druze under siege by al-Shaddad's thugs, and they have nowhere to turn but towards Israel. Israel, in turn, seeks further settler colonialist expansionism along its Syria border. I don't know if it's like directionally violence that the Druze are subjected to by al-Shaddad or Jalani's like brigades themselves, or that Jelani simply does not have any control over a lot of these paramilitaries because he's just like effectively a puppet for Western interests and has no real popular support. Like some people who are maybe a little pro-Assad will make it seem as though he's like, make it seem as though this is like deliberate and that he is doing the massacres himself. It's, you know, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if he's like, because I can't see any reason for him to deliberately engage in this kind of the Druze or creating any sort of sectarian fighting in the region, because you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well, enlighten me. Maybe you have more ideas. Here, Israel is right. No, Israel's never right. Israel is always wrong. Anyway, but an overt Israeli presence across Syria isn't feasible, and while al-Shaddad was the easiest way to end Assad plus Russia plus the resistance axis presence, he is full of limitations for the U.S. Powerful elements within al-Shaddad's ranks are unpredictable and hostile to the West. Al-Shaddad's regime also lacks popular support across Syria, while neighboring countries like Lebanon and Iraq are wary. This is where the Kurds come in. The Kurds are the biggest armed non-state army in the region, spread across 4 countries with the U.S. as vital interests, Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. They have more than 10 years of nonstop war experience, including fighting side by side with U.S. forces. But most importantly, for the U.S., the Kurds are pro-Western, and while sometimes critical, crucially, they are not hostile to Israel. In the wake of Assad's overthrow, analysts talked of a David corridor linking Israeli-controlled Golan Heights to Kurdish territory in Syria's north. Today, and this is something that Turkey does not want. Okay, this is something that Turkey does not want. Turkey wants to control all of the Kurdish militias in the region, okay, and does not want them to be under any sort of American control. And as a NATO ally, if the interest was like permanent stability, they would probably allow Turkey to do that. And there was some leeway in this direction as the PKK disbanded and disarmed. And that was a gift from America to Turkey, in my opinion, a gift that they gave to Turkey specifically so that Erdogan could like secure a big victory after all that he did for Syria, in terms of overthrowing the Assad regime. And yet Israel has different motivations, it seems. And I think that's what's going on here, which is that like Israel wants to have the Kurdish militias on their side. Considering that the Turks in the past, like the Turkish militias, Turkish military in the past, has literally fought America because of the Kurdish emancipatory movement broadly and their militia movements in the region broadly, I suspect that they're not going to sit idly by and quietly and allow Israel to control Kurdish militias and use them in whatever way they see fit, especially when this connective land bridge would basically be in the border region of southern Turkey, the northern Syrian corridor. Today, Mazlum Abdi, the leader of the Kurdish-led SDF, said the Druze have asked his forces to enable safe passage for civilians. Such a passage would likely follow the same route as the proposed David corridor. So the northern Syrian corridor that Turkey is literally bombed into oblivion and have de facto control over, Israel wants to overtake. Okay. One possible scenario is that the U.S. welcomed the sectarian by al-Shara's force against minorities like the Alawites controlled chaos. Now, both Alawites and the Druze, who were previously ambivalent at best towards the Kurds, can call on them for protection. In this way, the U.S. is engineering the Kurds to become increasingly influential in the new state apparatus so that apparatus can be more stable and pro-Western. In turn, this would enable a stable corridor connecting Syria to Kurdish territories in Iraq and Iran, thereby positioning the U.S. squarely at Iran's door, the final destination where it seeks regime change to secure total regional hegemony. Except that corridor also presents a threat for Turkey. Okay? Because Turkey doesn't with Iran. Turkey hates Iran. Let's be real. Ironically enough, what Israel is trying to do is basically a reverse Iran situation where Iran had a logistical corridor in Syria that connected Iran to Lebanon so they could arm Hezbollah. Israel wants to do the reversal and use the Kurdish militias in an effort to connect all of the existing Kurdish militias as a vehicle to further cause instability in Iran. Because remember, while the shit was popping off in Iran, I talked about how while America was striking Iran and things were popping off in Iran, the one group to look out for, as I always said, was the Kurdish movement, the Kurdish nationalist forces in Iran. Dude, what are you talking about? Did you do your own research? What? Yes. What are you? Why do people come in here and they go, dude, I don't understand what you're saying. You're actually wrong. And then they never actually end up telling me what the problem is. W, rage bait completed. You need to finish One Piece. Okay, take a day off. The reason why it's frustrating for me is because, like, I might get something wrong. I don't want to do that. So if there's like someone who is coming to the table with different information, I welcome that. So whenever someone comes in and is like, you're actually wrong on this, I'm like, okay, explain why. And it's frustrating, but they just go, you're wrong. And then they don't say anything else. They just say you're wrong and then they move on. And it's very frustrating. Finally, in this scenario, the unprecedented decision by the PKK to lay down their arms against Turkey serves an important purpose. The U.S. needs to calm on the Turkish-Kurdish front so that the Kurdish forces can be redirected towards Iran. This is why Abdullah Öcalan, PKK-affiliated Syrian, Iraqi, and Iranian Kurds were excluded from the PKK disarmament, a detail which Turkey and the U.S. has been relatively quiet about. All that being said, Syria faces the bloodshed like it has never seen. For starters, al-Shara's forces, now unleashed, won't be easy to put back in their box. History shows that the West plans are rarely well laid and often backfire in all sorts of bloody and unexpected ways. Can you explain why Turkey hates Iran so much? What do you mean? That is where Turkey is the continuation of the Ottoman Empire. Iran has its own regional interests. Turkey has its own regional interests. They are directly at odds with one another. There's a little bit of that Sunni-Shia divide there as well for some who care about that sort of thing. Is this true? Once you realize that Kash Patel's girlfriend is a 26-year-old Israeli intelligence operative and that the entire relationship is likely a honey trap, the refusal to release the Epstein file suddenly makes a lot more sense. I don't know if that's the case or not. People sometimes say like PragerU. If someone is like a PragerU person, then they're like an Israeli intelligence operative, which is, I don't think she's like Mossad or anything. I don't know. I don't know how real the ancient masculinity account is. Sorry to report. The CEO of PragerU is a former Israeli intelligence, former Illinois intelligence. I like to think that he was a member of the Mossad, but for Illinois, the great, wonderful state. That's what he was up to. While Israel does not seek direct confrontation with Turkey nor intends to employ such capabilities imminently, it must ensure operational capacity to strike Turkish military assets similar to demonstrated actions against Iranian threats. Yet this war is inevitable. How wild would it be if Israel, not Russia or China, that ended up triggering the collapse of NATO by attacking Turkey, knowing full well which side the U.S. would choose if it came down to it? I don't know about this. I don't think that America would protect Turkey if Israel directly struck Turkey and like waged war against NATO. I think America would probably scale Israel's actions back before it got to that level. Trump don't give a fuck about NATO. That's also false. Don't ever say that. Trump loves NATO. Please stop. Trump has never done anything remotely anti-NATO. The only thing it's done is in his first term, he basically forced all of the NATO countries to follow along with Obama's initial demands that they spend more. They increase their GDP expenditures on weapons contracts. He just basically made them do it. Okay. And then Biden continued that. And now he's increasing those expenditure demands. Didn't he get us out of NATO? No. What? Yeah. Anyway, we got Bill O'Reilly. We got some other stuff to talk about with respect to... we have engaged all parties involved in the clashes in Syria. We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made, and this is what we fully expect them to do. And what they're demanding is like that the Syrian government stand down. History Speaks says, it is well known that Israeli Druze tend to be patriotic Israelis. However, non-Israeli Druze tend to have anti-Israel views. For example, about 86% of Druze in Lebanon supported the 7th of October attack on Israel. Are we supposed to believe that Israel feels brotherhood with non-Israeli Druze and wants to go to war to help them? They don't even treat their own, again, largely patriotic Druze citizens with equal rights in Israel. But once again, Israel has a right to defend itself, okay? Israel has a right to defend itself. And if you say that it's crazy that Israel is like bombing Syria, then you're being anti-Semitic. Please don't say that. I will not allow that kind of that's the maximum anti-Semitism, okay? That's basically praising Adolf Hitler when you say Israel should not bomb Syria. Please don't do that.